Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I bought a pirate deck. Will I go to hell for it? No, I don't think so, because I bought it in a spirit of research. I bought this deck to explain to you the pitfalls, the horrors, the injustices of rip-off decks. Here we are, the Fyodor Pavlov deck. It was online advertised for about 15 euros, whereas the actual deck here, as you can see, is much more magnificent in every way. It's bigger, it's heavier,
and it's more expensive.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, both these decks were bought from Amazon. This from amazon.de, this from amazon.co.uk. There was really no indication. Like when I bought this one, it didn't say, unauthorized deck. The only giveaway was the price. As I say, $14.99, including postage and packing for that one. It arrived in an Amazon envelope without any receipt or any kind of paperwork at all. Whereas this one is clearly the official thing. I waited quite a long time before buying this deck because I wasn't sure I was going to like it, and it's priced quite high. I mean, there was a time when it was sort of 50 UK pounds. Then I found it at amazon.co.uk for about 34 pounds, which is about 40 euros. So 15 euros, 40 euros. The clue was in the price. This was clearly the real thing. And in the description, it mentioned, that it came with a book, whereas this thing just mentioned that it was a pack of cards. In neither case did it specify what the size of the cards were. So here I've got bridge size, and here I've got full tarot size. I actually prefer bridge size. And one of the interesting things about this video is I'm going to tell you about what I, as a tarot reader, feel about these two products. Now, I'm not endorsing ripping people off, pirating decks, not paying the artist. On the contrary, but I'd like to talk about what's really going on here. So let's take a look at the naughty version first. It's bridge size, which I much prefer to tarot size. So I'm quite happy about that. Let's look at the angelic version. We get a book here, very solidly produced book. It's hardback. I'm not really going to review it at the moment. That will come later, ladies and gentlemen. It's heavy, isn't it? The whole thing's heavy. You've got one of these huge boxes which takes up actually more space than it should and actually wastes space in your tarot drawer. But again, I'm not here to judge. And then you've got the cards. Now this is very magnificent. You've got your gold edging, haven't you, there? And here, for 15 euros, you don't get gold edging. And we begin to see how things have kind of like changed in the transition from real to pirate. Here we have lovely little gilded stars, and here we have, frankly, yellow stars. Interestingly enough, there is a little US Games Systems copyright there in the corner, and in the pirate version, it's still there. Poor things. Cardstock is, in the real version, it's quite good quality. Again, I'll tell you later whether I actually like the cardstock, but it's kind of got a canvasy effect. Whereas here, it's just very workmanlike cardstock, like a pack of playing cards. There's not a huge difference in thickness, actually. The pirate version cards are nearly as thick as the good boy version cards. Okay, quality of reproduction. Let's have a look at some of these here. Of course, I haven't used the pirate version, have I? Because I don't want to be damned for eternity. So they're still all ordered. Let's look at some major arcana ones. The Fyodor Pavlov Tarot is not particularly colourful. It's almost a monochrome deck. It's printed on off-white. Well, it's not printed on off-white. It's got a fake off-white background. So you actually have the white here, because if it was printed on off-white, you couldn't really have white sections. But as you see, it is almost monochrome. The colours are flown in quite tastefully. In the suits, for example, you have some gold flown in for the pentacles. You have some red flown in for the swords. So what we're getting here is that the colours in the pirate version are actually slightly more vivid, but we would probably say, in all fairness to the real version, they're maybe a little less subtle. That lady is looking not quite so pink and fleshy in the pirate version. And let's look at the most colourful card in the deck, probably, which is the world card. And I think it's sort of darker here. The creamy background has been slightly darkened, and I think the creamy background is a sort of statement on the Fyodor Pavlov tarot, and here the statement has been slightly turned up, and actually my camera is making it look more tasteful than it is. It's quite sort of tobacco stainy in here. Let's look in closer. There's not a huge difference in the quality of the images. In the naughty version, it's a bit, the blacks are a bit inked up, aren't they? They're a bit too much. And you do, in that face, lose a little bit. You lose some of the horror of the heart, don't you, on the Three of Swords. I'm not sure you lose a huge amount on that one, but it's close. The US game system here, they have made an attempt to give this sort of a canvassy cardstock, and so that is a little bit nicer. So much for a comparison of printing. The other thing I want to tell you is that my flatmate, with a guilty look on his face, gifted me this, a copy of the Modern Witch Tarot, and he said, Robert, I think it might be a pirate version, I think it's obviously a pirate version because this particular tarot comes with lots of add-ons, doesn't it? The interesting thing about this is that I think, and maybe this one really isn't terribly well printed, that you can see sort of shadows at the top of the cards, here and here and here. But something does occur to me when I look at this deck, reduced in size, printed on not particularly nice cardstock. And it's this, that I'm a working tarot reader, ladies and gentlemen. I'm only really interested in how well and how efficiently cards function for me when I want to go into this, frankly, very particular mental state that one goes into when one reads tarot cards. And I want everything to be perfect. I want everything to be simple. And I don't want to really have to think too hard when I'm putting the cards down. I just want to receive the messages. And so I'm always looking for decks in which the images are very apparent, where you just look at them and you know exactly what they are. Now this deck here, the Modern Witch, which is not suitable for me because I'm not a young woman and I'm not the sort of person who wants to ban men from my life completely. But this Modern Witch Tarot is, in a sense, quite near to the RWS. It retains the shapes and the body language of the RWS in quite a witty way. It modernizes everything and it changes the clothes and it changes some of the colors, but the colors remain kind of bright and kind of a little bit Pamela-ish. You have these yellow skies. That's definitely an RWS flourish. You've got more pink. Good. I'm in favor of more pink. But you do have the same kind of placement of the people in the cards. So if you're RWS, you get that completely. Now, when I look at new tarot decks, I'm always kind of asking myself, how easy is it going to be to read with that? And what I want to say about this comparison is that it does raise certain questions. It inevitably raises certain questions. It inevitably raises the questions of why US Game System chose to put this deck out in such a frankly luxurious version. You don't really need gold edging. You don't really need, a box that is almost twice as big as it should be. And you don't really need a little white book to be so lavishly produced. I mean, again, the question is the book interesting enough to warrant this kind of treatment? I'm going to deal with that in a further video. Frankly, I have my doubts, but you'll have to hear about that later. The whole thing is given quite a lot of heft. I mean, that's a heavier book than a paperback would be. There's weight in these front and back bits. So as far as I can tell, US Game Systems brought this to the shops, at least in London, at a price point of about £50. And that's quite a lot. there is, as far as I know, no bridge size edition. And if you want to buy the legitimate version, not the pirate version, then basically you pay for this rather extravagant package. But ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, tarot cards are not about accompanying books and gold edging and huge boxes with lovely little bits of yellow ribbon. Tarot cards are about tarot cards. And you will either like or dislike a deck. You will work with a deck or not work with a deck, not because of the gold edging, but because of the images. And when a deck comes out in a reduced size on what you might call a debased cardstock, that's a test. And that tests the deck out, and it tests out your interest in the deck. It's a bit like a preview, except that, you've actually paid for it and you can actually use it. And I think that this deck, the Modern Witch, passes the pirate test better than the Fyodor Pavlov tarot. I'm absolutely not endorsing piracy or infringement of copyright, but I think that, it's clear that tarot manufacturers, if they've got any sense, will be keeping an eye on this sort of thing and asking themselves, well, what can we do to protect our product? And one thing they could do would be to bring the product out in a less pretentious and a less overpriced way, so that people wouldn't be driven, ladies and gentlemen, driven into the arms of the pirates. That was my report on the dangers, horrors, and injustices of rip-off tarot decks that you buy online. I'm Robert Farrer, this is Tea and Tarot, and I'll probably be back next week. Bye now.